So I was recently asked by one of my patrons, Clayton Humbert, if I could review Saving Private Ryan. This is one of his favourite movies of all time. It's up there for me. It's recently cracked my top 100. If you go back and see the top 100 I made a couple of years ago, I think now, it didn't quite make the list. I've seen it again. Just for this review, and it slid back in there. It was in there at one point, way back when I first started my channel. I did a top 100. It was in there. It slid out. Well, having seen it again recently, it slid back in. But yeah, so Clayton asked me to review this. Do check out his channel as well. He has his own YouTube channel called Ages of Film. Big Batman fan, and obviously, as I say, big fan of this film. The thing that struck me about this movie going in, it shocked me actually, was that I always remembered this being like a 2-hour movie, solid 2-hour movie. I sat down to watch it, and I paused it at one point to get up, go for a drink, and my DVD player, when you pause it, the runtime comes up, and I noticed 2 hours and 42 minutes. And I was like, no, this film is not nearly 3 hours long. I think what that shows is that, and I do shudder, I'll say, when a lot of reviewers use the word pacing. It's one of those kind of buzzwords that a lot of reviewers use without actually really thinking about what it means. But I think it does show that the pacing of this film is really expertly handled, because this feels like a 2-hour movie to me. Even watching it again this time around, knowing how long it was, I got to the end of it and I did not feel that running time at all. This still felt like a 2-hour movie. Now, for those who haven't seen it, the story is very simple. It's about a group of soldiers that are tasked with going into the heart of France and pulling out a private named Ryan, Saving Private Ryan, obviously, hello, but because his 3 brothers have been killed. He is the 4th, he's the remaining son of a woman, and the state decides, you know what, we've got to save this kid. For his mother's sake, we cannot send her a 4th letter in which, yeah, all of her sons are going to be wiped out. That's your story, and what that allows is, as I say, for this unit to go through the action, through the war, through the fighting, through many different kinds of battles and warfare. And it really takes you in to that setting, to what it must have been like, you know. And this is a film that was quite famous when it was first shown for veterans coming out of it in floods of tears, because they said it was literally, it was like going back there. Like the emotions that it stirred up within them were very real, very tangible. And being someone who's never had to go off and fight in a war, you know, I'm in a very privileged position. It was very tangible to me too. You know, like the experience you go on through this movie is an absolute roller coaster ride, and the action is not exciting in the sense of, you know, it's not Bad Boys. You know, you don't come to this for the rip-roaring action, but the action is intense. It stirs emotions. It gets you on the edge of your seat for all the right reasons and all the wrong reasons at the same time. You know, there's stuff that happens in this where I am literally shouting at the screen, and I've seen it multiple times, dozen times now. At one particular sequence in which one guy is he's at the bottom of these stairs and something's going on upstairs, and you're wanting him to just get his ass moving and get up there. And I know what's going to happen. I've seen it before, and yet every time I'm on the edge of my seat and I'm willing this guy to get his ass moving. And in a moment of cowardice, he doesn't. And as a result, someone dies. Consequence is something that this film is very much concerned with, the consequences of our actions. You know, at one point we have a very clear discussion, a very clear reasoning from the commanding officer, Miller, played by Tom Hanks, brilliantly by Tom Hanks, in which he talks about how he's reasoned his way through the war, particularly with regards to the loss of life, the loss of his men. And for every man that he's lost, he reasons that they've saved at least a dozen more, and that's how he's able to carry on going forward, to carry on moving forward, and not let the loss of these men just completely stunt him, as it would anyone if they really stopped to think about it. The situations that these guys find themselves in, have consequences. Whether you let someone live or die has consequences. If you kill someone, that has a consequence on your soul, on your outlook in life. It's not an easy thing to take a life, but then if you let that person go, there are consequences to that, because that person could come back later and do some serious damage, if they're on the opposing side. So yeah, the film is very much dealing with consequences. That is evident also in a sequence where one soldier, played by Vin Diesel, rather young looking Vin Diesel, he tries to save this girl. He makes the decision, he makes a choice, and that choice has consequences. As I say, these are men that are in very difficult circumstances, in which every decision they make has very dire consequences either way. There is one negative about this film, and once I've talked about that, I won't really have any more, because there aren't any. This is a near perfect film with regards to war movies and just filmmaking in general, to be honest. But my one negative is the book ending that we find in the movie. So we start off the movie with this old man going to this memorial kind of spot, all these crosses on, which visually looks quite striking and is quite powerful in regards to showing you just how many men died, or implanting that thought in your head of how many men died. But this is the Private Ryan character, played by Matt Damon as a younger man. But here we see that him as his older self, and he's reflecting, and that kind of kicks us off into the movie, where boom, we're straight into the Omaha beach landings, and then the film plays out. But we come back to him at the end, so we kind of morph from the young Matt Damon to the old Private Ryan. And I really didn't like these bookended sequences. I get why they're there, I see what they're doing, but I feel like they're just mollycoddling the audience. I feel like they're kind of hitting you over the head with the message of the film. And I just think it's totally unnecessary. That's all. I think if we'd have opened up, boom, jump cut, Hanks' face, we pull out on the camera, the way it does, when we first cut to Hanks, start on that, we pull out, and we're in it. Right from the get-go, we're in it. And then towards the end of the film, there's something that Hanks' character says to Private Ryan, which is really the whole point of the film, which is it speaks to the audience, and for those who've not seen the film, it's getting on a bit. What are you doing? So this is obviously spoilers and stuff, but the thing that Hanks' Miller says to Ryan is, earn this. He's dying, basically. He's dying before Private Ryan's eyes, and he says to him, earn this. And it's a powerful moment. But I feel like that's not just being said to Ryan. It's being said to us, the audience members. Because whichever way you cut it, we're sat here now in our freedom, in our modern day Western civilization, because of what men like Miller did during the war. They laid down their lives to secure our freedom, to secure our future. That was powerful enough, I feel. And I don't feel like we needed to see that Ryan himself had been a good man and had gone away and really listened to what Miller had told him when he said, earn it. Because just hearing him say it, hearing him say, earn this, was powerful enough. If you really needed to show something from Ryan to get the point across that, you know, that he was going to listen, that he was going to take that on board, then have a scene between him and Miller's wife. You know, he goes back home, he takes the dog tags to Miller's wife, and maybe have a scene between them so that we're sticking with the man we've followed throughout the film, this young Private Ryan, rather than jumping to someone who we no longer know. It makes me disconnect a little bit from the character, because that isn't the character I've been following. The old dude isn't the character I've been following. It's the Matt Damon version that I've been following. That's my one negative. But beyond that, everything else in the film is absolute perfection. Probably the best war movie ever made, I would say. Just from the powerful, 20-minute opening sequence, which everyone bangs on about. It's the first thing people are going to mention when they talk about Saving Private Ryan, is that opening 20-minute sequence. And I remember seeing it for the first time way back when. I saw it on video, VHS, and I saw it with my parents, and it was just numbing. It was shocking to see. And something that I realised this time around, and it actually made me think of the Christopher Nolan film, Dunkirk, which is that, and I think it made me appreciate this film a bit more than Dunkirk this time around. I think before watching it again this time around, I'd have probably said that Dunkirk was my favourite war film of all time. I think this slightly usurps it, because I suddenly realised that what Dunkirk is doing is the opening 20 minutes of Saving Private Ryan, but stretched out. There's not as much character work going on in Dunkirk. And for anyone who knows me, that's not a criticism for me with regards to Dunkirk. I know that is for a lot of people. There's not enough character work. But for me, it was a film about the experience. It was about throwing you into it. And that's how you relate to what's happening with the people. You're in that experience, and you just want to get out. You want to escape, the same way the people do in the film. Here, we get that for the opening 20 minutes, where I don't know who any of these people are, and that's the thing. And it's quite confusing. For the opening 20 minutes, you're kind of like, people are dying, people are getting shot, people are talking to each other, and I'm like, I don't know. They all look the same because they're all dressed in the same gear. I can't quite hear a lot of the dialogue because it's under this din, this noise of explosions and gunfire. It's very confusing, and obviously that's purposeful, because Spielberg is trying to put you right in the thick of that action, right in the thick of the scariness of what's going on that beach. And from the moment that those boat doors come down and the whole boat just gets obliterated, your mouth is on the floor and you're just like, holy crap, I'm so glad I don't have to live through that. I'm so glad that I am not there. It makes me really thankful to God that I did not live in that time and had to be one of those people on those boats. But this whole 20-minute sequence, as I say, it gave me flashbacks to Dunkirk in the sense that it's experiential. It's not necessarily narratively driven. It's experientially driven. Spielberg just wants to throw you in it and let you feel what those men felt. And it's claustrophobic, it's dangerous, it's stressful. It gets the adrenaline flowing, and you get only a sense of the fear these men must have felt. Once we get past that, we're into the mission, and it becomes a much more character-driven piece from then on. And each of these characters has their own kind of little arcs with each other. And like I say, how they interact with each other brings out all these notions of consequence. The things that we do matter. The things that we do have an effect, not just in the here and now, but in the future. I really love all the interactions, all the stuff around the FUBAR, which obviously I won't say what the acronym stands for right now, but if you've seen the film, you get it, and it's quite amusing. But I love the way that little aspects of their characters come out in some of the most tense moments. There's one moment when the whole team is kind of falling apart because of something that's just happened, and it's in that moment that Miller suddenly tells them his history. He's a bit of an enigma. He's a mystery. His team look at him as this kind of stoic, mystical figure almost, because they don't know his history. They don't know where he came from, and they make all these little jokes about him essentially being created in a lab or something like that. He's a soldier through and through. And then when he finally reveals his history, he was a teacher, an English teacher, and it's like, okay, and that kind of puts a whole spin, a new dynamic on him as an individual, and also reminds you of what it was back then. To be conscripted. Like they pulled everyone in. Like people who weren't necessarily soldiers from day one, who didn't get out of high school and just join the army and that's all they've known their whole lives. There was people who were, English teachers who suddenly had their entire existence, their entire outlook and existence changed by the dire circumstances they were thrust into. They suddenly had to become different people. And it's as we learn who those different people are, each member of this team, and they become more human to us, and we kind of grow to appreciate who they are as people a bit more. For me, it makes the final action set piece a lot more engrossing, I would say, even than the Omaha Beach sequence. Like, while the Omaha Beach sequence is, as I say, this experiential thing that's just happening and you can't get out of it, you don't know any of these people. I mean, sure, Tom Hanks shows up and it's Tom Hanks. You know that he at least is going to get off that beach. Otherwise, there wouldn't be a movie. But we still don't know the guy, as just like all the other soldiers around him, we know very little about this guy other than he's in charge, kind of. But by the time we get to the end of the film, where they're trying to secure this bridge, they're trying to stop the Germans coming across it, there's 4 tanks coming at them and a bunch of soldiers, and things are really against them. We know them by this point. So the whole situation becomes a lot more tense because I like these people. I don't want them to die. Which brings us to the aforementioned sequence in which I'm shouting at a guy to get up the stairs and help his brother in arms. That sequence, all that stuff at the end, when they're trying to keep the tanks at bay and whatnot, has always been more powerful to me than the Omaha Beach sequence because of that. Because by the time we get to that point, I know these people and I'm rooting for them. The cast as well on this is absolutely stacked, and there's so many young faces in it where they'd go on, and even some not so young faces that would go on to have like blistering careers after this. You got Nathan Fillion popping up at one point as in what is actually quite an amusing sequence where they get the wrong Private Ryan. And they tell this guy that we're taking you home, boy, because your brothers are dead, and it turns out it's not the right guy. And while that is it's quite a heavy thing to put on someone, it is an amusing moment. Bryan Cranston, just way before his Breaking Bad days, just randomly popping up. Paul Giamatti, who he was on the map at this point. He was as a character actor, he was showing up in things, but just to see him there, just randomly popping up, and lots of other faces as well, even in the main cast that. Some you look at and you're like Adam Goldberg. What happened to him? The filmmaking is top notch. Spielberg's direction is absolutely brilliant. He just wrings every ounce of emotion from every scene. He's always efficient with his directing, turning like a close-up into a mid-shot, into a wide shot, all in one movement, which is just a really effective way of filming things. We've got beautiful cinematography from Janusz Kaminski. who's just, yeah, so some of the shadows he plays with, like, you know, particularly like the night shots when you can see the bombings going on in the background, and then the soldiers walking across the hills in silhouette, which is very iconic. You know, I think of like a lot of campaigns that have been done for, you know, like Help the Heroes and things like that, which is like the silhouette of the soldier just walking. It kind of has that feel about it. It's like they've taken this iconography that has been born out of, you know, of the Second World War, and he's put that up as a painting, really, as a moving painting on the screen. It feels like a very real, lived-in, falling apart world. You know, again, production design, you know, the sequence at the end, or even stuff in the middle when they cut through this town, you know, and the Vin Diesel character, he's trying to save this girl. It's from a house that's been kind of like just blown out. It's just all that production design is just, it's hell on earth, you know, but these are, they feel like very real environments. This feels like an actual war zone, not a place you want to be, and just every situation they're in, every place they're in, even when they get respite, never feels secure, never feels safe. So absolutely fantastic movie, not just war movie, but just movie. One of the best, easily one of Spielberg's best. Saving Private Ryan, 5-star film without a doubt. Like I say, lose those bookends for me, but they're like, what, 5 minutes of screen time in a 2-hour 45-minute movie. It's barely a criticism. This is a near perfect film. 5 stars for me. But what about you? What is your favourite war film ever made, and what do you think about Saving Private Ryan? Do let me and Clayton know your thoughts on the film down in the comments section below. Head on over to Ages of Film, check out Clayton's channel, give him a thumbs up, tell him who sent you. Thank you for watching this video, and until next time, cracking.